reality, you never really checked in with your internal guiding compass of whether or not I even like this, whether or not I even want to do this, and whether or not, if I don't like it and I don't want to do it, why do I need to have a high standard for myself in this arena?
Of course, you're not going to be able to maintain the standards and keep the promises to yourself with the actions that you have to take to do that, because that's not what you want. That's not what you want to be doing. That's not who you want to be. That's not the life you want to be living. Hey everybody, what is going on? This is Bianca.
And it's Emilia.
Welcome to another episode of Evolve Ventures, where we are helping growth-minded humans evolve by breaking one limiting belief at a time. We hope you enjoyed last week's episode number 230, how to be happy regardless of your relationship status. I know that's a hard one for a lot of people. So if you're struggling with that, struggle bussin', that episode is for you. Whether you're single or in a relationship, I think it's a really good episode.
Definitely.
For today, 231, Motivation Monday, how to trust yourself again. So this was an episode that Emilia had suggested, and I'm very excited for it. So do you want to dive in?
Yeah, let's dive in. So happy Monday, y'all. This is obviously for those of you who are watching on YouTube, you'll already get a heads up. But for those of you who are listening, you're a little behind the curve. So go ahead and jump over to YouTube and watch this, because Bianca and I are in the studio.
In person.
And Bianca is absolutely adoring it, I think, just as much as I am. So very exciting. Happy Monday, everyone. It's a wonderful thing when she has the courage to get on the road and come on over. Come on over. Come on. All right. Let's get back into it. So happy Monday. Happy Monday, y'all. So the reason why I really wanted to talk about this episode and bring this over to all of y'all out there is, number one, so that you guys can feel heard, because what I hear a lot from clients and community members, in particular in the Evolve community, is that sometimes you just don't feel like you trust yourself. And there's a long history of a narrative that comes in whenever you're trying to do something or do something for yourself, that like, if you were to try, there's an unconscious thought, or maybe you're starting to be more hyper vigilant to the thought that does come in, but it's intrusive in nature. And it essentially says that like, you can't do this. It's like a very limiting belief. And it comes down to, ultimately, what I found with a lot of people is that they ultimately just don't trust themselves. And they have a lot of evidence to a lot of people's experience. Like, we have a lot of evidence where we didn't trust our intuition, or we didn't trust that inner voice that was trying to lead us away from the bad things and towards the good. And whether it was because of a situation where, you know, you didn't want to do something, but because your friends were doing it, you went and did it. And afterwards, what suffered as a result was you trusting you, and you trusting that inner voice, and you trusting that inner compass that we see time and time again coming up and helping us. Sometimes it's hurt us. So that's where I wanted to start this episode in, for our listeners to, number one, feel heard, but number two, to say, how do you start trusting yourself again? And I think that you and I had a great conversation with one of our community members today, which was really beautiful, because she's learning to do that.
No. I mean, it's hard. I think so many of us have so many experiences where we make decisions based on the information that we had at the time, but we don't know how to look at the data, or what is this going to mean for my future, or what's going to happen if I make this decision. We just make choices based on emotion and just rawness, and inevitably we have a bad outcome because of it. And we have that happen time and time and time again, and we start learning, I can't trust myself to make choices. I can't trust myself to do what is good for me, what is in my best interest. And I see this happen with clients all the time. They've had experiences happen where they've made mistakes. They've gotten themselves hurt in small areas and in really big areas. And they start developing this belief that I'm not capable. I can't make decisions on my own. I have to have other people guide me and help me. Otherwise, I'm going to get hurt, or I'm going to choose to do something and regret it later on.
Yeah.
We've spoken to a lot of people who they don't want to do coaching, or they, don't want to do some of the programs that we have because they've been burned before.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm not going to do anything now because I don't trust that I'm going to make a good decision because of all the bad decisions I've made in my past.
Right. And I think a lot of that is attributed to the expectations that a lot of people have had on themselves so high. So like, let's say, for example, this is something that we hear all the time where it's like, oh, well, I wanted to get in 5 days a week, a walk every single day to 45 minutes and doing like XYZ. Like there's so many high standards in so many arenas of their life where it gets so overwhelming, and it can feel as though it's like they're drowning in their own expectations. And when you start to peel the curtain back, I know you've experienced this in coaching because this is something that Bianca and I talk about behind the scenes, where ultimately, like, and you and I, in our own regard, we've had to peel back the curtains, be like, where's this like high expectations for absolutely everything in our life, when in reality, like, I don't even like doing that. Like if you like tap into you and internally, you're like, I don't even freaking like doing this. Why do I have a high expectation of myself in this arena of my life? And when you peel back the curtain, one of the reasons why you're flopping forward and breaking all the promises you make to yourself and not trusting yourself is because of the fact that expectation that you're placing upon yourself, there's a voice that has been modeled by someone who had an expectation of you. Yeah. That was theirs, that you modeled, that you took on. When in reality, you never really checked in with your internal guiding compass of whether or not I even like this, whether or not I even want to do this, and whether or not, if I don't like it and I don't want to do it, why do I need to have a high standard for myself in this arena?
We develop beliefs throughout our lives of the person that we are supposed to be, or the person that we think we're supposed to be. And when we set that expectation, there's another set of expectations of, what do I have to do in order to become that person? And to your point, we set these expectations for ourselves and for our lives of the person we're quote unquote supposed to be, but it's not a person we actually want to be. It's not a person we feel aligned to. It's not a person who being that is going to be the most authentic and fully expressed version of ourselves. But for whatever reason, we think that is who I have to be in order to be good enough. Yeah. And so when we set this expectation and we have these standards of what I am supposed to do in order to be that person, of course, you're not going to be able to maintain the standards and keep the promises to yourself with the actions that you have to take to do that, because that's not what you want. That's not what you want to be doing. That's not who you want to be. That's not the life you want to be living. I know for me, comparing to Emilia, comparing to you was something that I did a lot. Like, oh, I have to do this the way that she does. I have to do this the way that Alan does. I have to do this the way that all of these people do. And when I sat back and really thought about it, I had to ask myself, why do I believe that I have to be like them? Right. And the answer was, because I don't believe I'm good enough as I am. So I have to be like these people who I place as better than me in order to be good enough. And when I was able to peel that layer back, it was really evident that I had a lot of inner work that I needed to do, and like self-worth and my own confidence. And when I started getting really clear on who's the person that I want to be, then I was able to make and keep promises to myself in that arena. So my fitness, for example, is something that is extremely important to me. And I went through a cut between the months of March. Oh no, I think it was February. Between February and July, I lost 22 pounds in 20 weeks. It was a drastic cut. I do not recommend anyone do what I did, but it was drastic. And I was able to keep the promises to myself in that. I didn't cheat. I don't think I ever cheated, I was blown away by, like, how the hell did I do that? But I did it almost perfectly. There was a couple things I messed up on, but like, whatever, I'm human.
Beautiful.
And thank you. You caught that?
I did. I see you. Self-compassion right there, y'all. That's the difference between I made a mistake and I have a regret.
It's because my expectation is not to be perfect in that.
Yeah.
I did the absolute best that I could. I got an incredible result and I was able to show myself, oh, I can do this. I kept this promise that I made to myself because it was something I valued. I had a deep reason why. I knew what I was doing it. I knew how to do it. And I eventually got there. And the only reason I was able to do that was because of years and years and years of starting off really small and gradually building my way up there. That person that we were talking to today, you know, we had to be a little candid with her and say, be mindful of the expectation that you're setting of yourself and what the habits are that you're trying to do.
Right.
You're trying to get yourself to do a habit of every single day, 7 days a week, don't miss.
Yeah.
You're struggling to do it once. So when you do that, you're setting yourself up for failure. And then you're going to fail and then you're going to feel terrible about yourself. And this is how we start feeling like we can't trust ourselves. So to round this out and to start wrapping this up, when you are setting goals and expectations for yourself, you have to set them as small as possible to start. And it's not because you're not capable of more. It's because if you can start off small and show yourself that you can do it, you'll get into the habit of doing that skill. And then over time, you can increase it and do more because it's become a part of your life. It's become a part of your routine and your system. And then you're more likely to actually continue and follow through. It has to become a part of your life, not something you drastically throw in there. And it's so far removed from your ordinary that you can't sustain it.
Exactly. Think of like a triathlete who first they have a desire to be a triathlete. Then all of a sudden they grab the identity and they start saying, you know what? I'm a triathlete. I'm a triathlete. I'm the type of person who does this. They do that. And then all of a sudden they show up for their first triathlon. Do you think that they're getting the like golden nugget star or whatever it is that they have? No. What they do is they've earned that identity through the small things. They started by dipping their toe in cold water. They started very, very small, just getting on the bike. They started very small in a way that could, from someone, an observer or an onlooker, look and be like, why are you doing that? But they started small and that's what they built on because that foundation was really powerful for them. And then they built in the identity of I'm a triathlete because they dipped their toe in the water, not because of just randomly showing up for a triathlon and okay, I showed up, that makes me a triathlete. It's a very different game. And so for all of our listeners, think of that analogy when you go to try anything. You have a desire to be someone who trusts themselves again. Dip your toe in that cold water by doing the things that almost seem small to someone if they were to overlook that. Or it might seem small to a part of you that might want to criticize yourself. Have compassion for that process and trust the process. What we are not saying in this episode is lose all of your standards for everything that you have. It's more so channel into those parts of you that have maybe set really, really high expectations in areas that you never wanted to in the first place, and check back in with that part of you that is like, you know what, I actually do want to have high standards around my fitness because I care about my body, not because I want to be whatever my mom or my dad wanted me to be when I was a kid, but because I want to be this. I want to be the person, the mom, the dad, whoever that takes care of my body so that when I have kids or if I have kids, I can keep up with them when they're running around the track like little rascals, you know? So start small and build and let that momentum really bring you forward into trusting yourself again. So that's my actually final takeaway for this episode.
Episode suggestion?
I actually don't have that. And you probably see that right there on your iPad. Shoot. All right.
I'll give one for the both of us.
Thank you.
Number 80, what to do when it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope that seeing us in person brought a little smirky smirk on your face. And we will see you all next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.